classic low T symptoms, low energy, low motivation.
What?
I just know secondhand that if I tried to go the same route with a primary care doctor, it wouldn't have been nearly as easy.
I take it back. This is way too hard.
Just simple things like getting blood work, and not only getting blood work, but specifically getting T.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with another Wittmer patient interview. Today, we'll be interviewing Wittmer patient John Klein, who is an apprentice for Starting Strength Atlanta. Check it out. Hey, John Klein, thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to learn about your story. So to get it started, how old are you and how long have you been lifting?
Good morning. I am 61 years old and I've been lifting correctly for probably 14 years now.
Awesome. And I know you work with the Starting Strength franchise out there in Atlanta. Tell me a little bit more about that. How long have you been coaching with Starting Strength Atlanta?
I have been an apprentice coach at Starting Strength Atlanta since about this time last year. We had our first opening day on November 6th of 2023. So it's hard to believe it's been a year now.
Yeah, awesome. And so what made you originally get into fitness and get into lifting and starting strength specifically?
I first heard of Starting Strength specifically when I went to a CrossFit gym of all places in 2010. And our son was going through Marine Corps recruit training at that time. So I wanted to look for something, physically demanding to kind of match what he was going through down in Paris Island. So go to CrossFit, and to their credit, one of the first things that they did was say, "Hey, did you ever hear of this book, Starting Strength?" And I think back then they had a first edition copy. So I was much more interested in barbell movements and, doing burpees and stuff like that. So I quit CrossFit and did Starting Strength out of my garage. And, they've been doing that since then.
Awesome. Well, personally, I have a little experience in both areas. I totally understand what you're saying. The 400-meter runs and the burpees and the total bar. It's not always for everybody. It wasn't for me either, but I enjoyed the lifting aspect. So that's really cool to hear. So we do like to hear a little bit more about your experience with the clinic, specifically, obviously, Wittmer Rejuvenation Clinic. So tell me a little bit more about what your life was like before WRC.
Well, honestly, I think the major highlight of my life before WRC was in 2021 when a doctor told me that I had symptoms of Parkinson's disease. So as you can imagine, they tell you, you've got neurodegenerative disease, that there's no known cure. It's quite a shock. And I thought, in spite of all my lifting, I wasn't able to avoid something like that. So I never would have imagined that I would have gotten to the point where I'd have the opportunity not only to coach, barbell training, but also avail myself of the services of a great place like Wittmer Rejuvenation. And of course, the way I found out about Wittmer, you all, was through the connection with Starting Strength, the podcast, the coach at the gym told me about it. And I couldn't have imagined that it would have been as easy as it is now. So I really appreciate the opportunity to have connected with y'all.
Yeah, that's great. So what was kind of the last straw with you as far as maybe I do need to look into Wittmer Rejuvenation Clinic and, get my blood levels tested and kind of see where I'm at with some of that stuff?
It's the classic low T symptoms. Like I told you, I'm 61 years old, so low energy, low motivation. So since it was available and since it seems much easier to negotiate, I just know secondhand that if I tried to go the same route with a primary care doctor, it wouldn't have been nearly as easy. Just simple things like getting blood work, and not only getting blood work, but specifically getting T checked, and not only T, but everything else, estradiol and so forth. So that was kind of the last straw, having those symptoms, and frankly, not wanting to put up with them anymore, and, pulling the trigger on looking at an option like this.
Yeah, that's great. You hit some great points there around some of the talks that sometimes happens with our primary care doctors and things like that. To share with the audience that maybe are potentially on the fence a little bit or learning a little bit more about the clinic, what was your process in getting started with Wittmer Rejuvenation Clinic? Like, as far as the actual steps you took, what kind of things did you have to do in order to get your blood work and to ultimately meet with a doctor? Do you kind of remember some of those steps that you took there?
I do. My process with getting started with you, I don't think it could have been easier. There's some very simple, basic forms to fill out on your website. Immediate contact and ongoing contact from you all back to me. Initial blood work, which didn't even have to make an appointment, just go to a local lab that does that and get a draw. get results back pretty quickly and have those results interpreted for me by one of your providers really quickly, and then presented with options going forward. What I really appreciated was not getting hung up on what the conventional wisdom calls reference ranges, and what it should be or versus what it could be to be optimal. So again, my getting started experience couldn't have been easier and was a major plus for me.
Awesome. And so now that you've been with the clinic for a while, tell me a little bit more about how your life has changed since joining Wittmer Rejuvenation Clinic.
Well, believe it or not, I told you about starting training in 2010. Maybe I had some dormant symptoms, like I said, of the Parkinson's that were affecting the results I was getting, but also the symptoms of low T that I mentioned. So the PRs, the lifetime PRs I have in squat, deadlift, and bench press and so forth, I've gotten them within the last year. And I don't believe it's a magic silver bullet that automatically puts, hundreds of pounds on your lifts. But, at 61 years old, I think in the mainstream, it's not particularly impressive for someone to be able to squat 315. But I can do it now, and I just did it in June. So, yeah, just energy and motivation, especially, fighting a situation like I'm fighting now. So it's really been pretty night and day. I suppose my wife could attest to the same as well, in the change that she's seen in me. We've been married for 32 years now, and so hopefully she's seen those same positive changes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So specifically with your training and things like that, do you feel like you recover better? Do you feel like there's a little less risk for injury as far as just kind of how your overall body reacts to the training and things like that? Did you see some transitions as far as before and after with that as well?
Yeah, definitely. I know whether it's me or even in the trainees that I coach that I observe that I know have started TRT, I call it like an afterburner effect. So certain lifts and weights that they had trouble with before, after starting, it's almost as if an afterburner goes on, and you can see them lock out things confidently that they haven't. So yeah, definitely better recovery. I think a faster metabolism. I actually have trouble eating enough to keep up with my metabolism now. And at age 61, I think that's pretty uncommon thing to hear. So metabolism, recovery, sleep, sleep is critical for anything, especially for someone that's training. So sleep through the night, and to try to keep it safe for work. Libido. I talked about being married for over 30 years. Libido can come and go, but it's definitely been a help with that. And again, hope my wife is happy.
For sure. Well, that's a great answer and exactly kind of what we like to hear. That's ultimately what we like, right? We want to help you guys get optimized and get the most out of your life. That's what it's all about. So we're going to dive in just a little bit deeper to some of those things that you touched on, because I want to hear even more about it. So with your coaching and how you help there at Starting Strength, and you've potentially seen people inside the clinic, and their improvements as well. How has the treatment impacted you as a coach? But then how have you also seen it impact, the people around you as well?
Okay, that's a terrific question. The way I've seen the treatment impact me as a coach is, I think we all know that a coach needs to, most of the time, be pretty assertive. So I'm not going to say that it causes a dramatic personality change, but just your ability to get loud if you need to certainly doesn't hurt that. And it helps to be able to see someone push as hard as they need to and work as hard as they need to get the results that they're entitled to. So it definitely helps with things like that hard work, assertiveness, and just the person's ability to recover from the training.
That's awesome. And then you touched a little bit on your personal relationships as well. You mentioned your relationship with your wife. I'm not sure if you have kids or not, but even just your friends, things like that. How has your relationships improved since starting with the clinic as well?
Well, relationships with others. Yeah, we do have one son who's grown and raised now. He's 32. He did 11 years enlisted in the Marine Corps, and then went on to get his bachelor's degree and become a naval officer. So that's what he's doing now. So I think it gets back into assertiveness, like I talked about earlier. Whether it's at work, and I've worked with the same company for 30 years now, just the ability to have some presence with other people, to take up some space, frankly, that definitely improves. If you're hormone levels are optimized. So I've seen changes that way. There comes a certain point where you have to stop worrying about what people think about you, for your own mental health. And if this helps with that, as opposed to, if your mood is depressed or whatever, then I that's really gravy for me.
I think a lot of what you're saying comes back to confidence, right? You kind of have a different confidence about yourself, whether it's confidence in your relationships, confidence in the gym, confidence in the workplace, things like that. Is that pretty much what you believe as well to be true?
Yeah, absolutely. And you asked me about coaching too, the confidence that I see. Again, the people that I know that I've seen on TRT, I can just see them taking up more space. I think a lot of that confidence comes from training in and of itself, Brenton, TRT or no TRT. But again, I can't help but notice it as far as the people that I know that are also clients of your clinic.
Awesome. All right. Final question.
Sure.
Any improvements that you didn't see coming before joining the clinic that you ultimately, maybe caught you off guard, that you maybe didn't see? You mentioned maybe improved strength, or you also mentioned improvement in your sleep and things like that. Was there anything that from an improvement standpoint kind of caught you off guard?
Okay, that's a terrific question. As you know, there's other media out there and other, I'm not going to call them influencers, but other people that speak to TRT. I know one of them seemed to imply a connection between TRT and regularity. And I've actually seen that. And, just to be frank, that's a possible side effect of, is a possible symptom of Parkinson's disease. So it's no small thing. And just to see a connection between that, if there is indeed a connection, really, again, caught me off guard. I wouldn't have connected the dots unless I saw that elsewhere. So if there is a connection, I'm thankful for it. You talk about some basic biological processes, whether it's sleep or recovery or whatever, regularity. I can't believe I'm talking about this, but regularity is yet another thing that's important. And if it's not there, it can really mess you up. But if there is a connection, then I'm thankful for it.
Yeah. That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, John. You did a great job, and thank you so much for your help and telling your story. And we appreciate you and hope to continue helping you along your journey.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hey, everybody. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Your support means a lot to us, and we continue to bring you real health stories from individuals just like you. If you found this video helpful, you might want to check out this interview with our very own Dr. Wittmer, where he answers all your TRT questions, or perhaps this one about one of the biggest weight loss stories I've ever heard. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.